Good morning, everyone. I'm Quinn Wisson from Vertical Measures, and I'm here hosting VM's monthly webinar series. Today's webinar is titled 8 Steps to Win at Search, Social, and Content Marketing, and will be presented by our very own CEO, Arnie Ken. Arnie has held executive positions in the world of new technologies and marketing for more than 20 years. He is a frequent speaker, workshop leader, and author of the award-winning content marketing book, Accelerate, and what I'm sure he'll be excited to tell you about in a little bit, a new book that just came out yesterday called Content Marketing Works. Before I hand off the presentation, I just have a few things to note. Today's webinar will be available for viewing by tomorrow, and we will go ahead and send out an email with a link to the video so you can re-watch it or review the slides. We'll also be happy to answer any of your questions. So if you take a peek at your webinar interface, you'll see a little question applet where you can send anything you'd like me to ask Arnie at the end of his presentation. You can also ask questions via Twitter using the hashtag VMWebinar. And any questions we don't get to, we will be sure to try and answer via email. If you have any technical difficulties, please attempt to just sign off and reconnect, and usually that solves the problems. So I think that's all my notes, and I will go ahead and hand it off to our presenter, Arnie Ken.
Thank you, Quinn, and hello, everybody, and thanks for joining. I understand we have quite a few people registered. I don't know how many are online at the moment, but thanks for joining, and for those of you who have seen me present or give webinars in the past, thanks for coming back. I guess there's a redundant picture of me. So as Quinn mentioned, we're a 50-person pay-per-click content marketing social search agency based in Phoenix. And I do a lot of this teaching and speaking and presenting all around theoretically the world. Yesterday we came out with a brand new book called Content Marketing Works, and I'll tell you how you can get it for free at the end of the webinar. That's my tease. So if you have seen me speak before or present or do a webinar, you might recall that I try to jam in as much as I can into my allotted time, and I'm going to do very much the same today. I hope to be finished in about 35 or 40 minutes, and like Quinn said, we'll take questions at the end. So hopefully the people that are on this call, I don't know what all industries you're from, verticals or they're agencies or whatever, but hopefully you're becoming very familiar with the phrase content marketing. You're here to learn a little bit about how you can get it implemented in your organization or for your clients, and hopefully you all have seen some indication like this slide here that the buzz around content marketing is just exploding, and it all really started, this is a look via Google Trends on the numbers of people searching for the phrase content marketing, and it all really started when Google rolled out its algorithm updates, Panda and Penguin, back actually now more than 3 years ago is when it all started. But in essence, Google, as much as some of us were preaching this beforehand, Google made it so by announcing that thin content, weak content, redundant content, content that doesn't engage is no longer going to show up in the search algorithms or search results, and that the algorithm was really targeted at eliminating that kind of content. So we've seen this just explosion in content marketing. And as far as a definition goes, this is a Vertical Measures' definition. I think it fits the overall industry pretty well, and I'm just going to read it to you real quick to make sure we get everybody on the same page. But this is what we think and the industry feels that content marketing is all about. So content marketing is the art of providing relevant, useful content to your customers without selling or interrupting them. So instead of pitching your products and services, you are delivering information that makes your customers more informed before they buy. And if you deliver this on a consistent, ongoing basis to your customers, they're ultimately going to reward you with their business and loyalty. So the key here, I think the keys here are without selling or interrupting them, and it's got to be useful information, and you put it in front of them when they're ready to receive it, when they're searching for it. But this, as we've now learned over the last 3 or 4 years of doing this, not only as an industry, but here at Vertical Measures, I frequently say we've got the arrows in the back. We started this 4 or 5 years ago, really betting our business on content marketing, really migrating our clients as much as possible to content. And one of the things we've certainly learned, and the industry has learned, is this is not a 30-day return on investment. But if you make the investment, the long-term payoffs can be absolutely huge. And we've seen this over and over again. It does work, and that's the point of the book that we released yesterday that again I'll tell you about at the very end of this webinar. So how important is search? And I still get asked this question, and my roots are SEO, and I'm a search guy, and it still kind of surprises me when people say, well, are people spending time searching, and is that really where they're going? And isn't it all about social media or advertising or whatever it is? And the facts are that still, and if you just think about how you use the web when you go out to make a purchasing decision, whether it's for a pair of shoes, a new car, a trip to Italy, whatever it might be, you hit Google or Bing or some other search service, and the facts are that 93% of the time that's exactly what we're doing. We're doing our research online, and usually it starts with Google. And then I get asked, well, yes, but aren't they doing branded queries? Aren't they searching by brand name? Because I'm a small business and I just can't seem to beat those guys. And no, the facts are that, again, the huge chunk of those searches, 86% of them are for non-branded queries. An example I frequently give, because I'm a hiker, is that I might search for brown men's waterproof hiking boots. No brand name in there at all. I'm searching by the intent and the purpose and what I'm looking for. And then most of us still do not click on the ads. The percentage of people clicking on the ads actually is going up, and I think it's because we're one, getting more comfortable with the idea of clicking on the ads, and the other thing is Google keeps taking up more and more real estate on the search results page with their ads, so sometimes we're even accidentally clicking on them. But my point here is, if you think of how wealthy Google has become and its shareholders have become over the years by collecting 10 or 15 or 20% of the clicks, just think of how valuable that organic real estate is, where most of us are actually clicking. And that's kind of the point of content marketing. Social is absolutely a critical piece, but we want to capture, and where we focus a lot is on the search side. So here are our 8 steps. And we started and created these 8 steps I'm going to say about 4 years ago now. We've learned a lot. We've changed them up a little bit. Actually not added a quantity, but just changed them up. And it's a continuous process, and that's a key thing to remember, that there's no finish line with content marketing. You're constantly working through these steps. It's a cycle. So in the time that I have, I'm going to get through all 8. I won't be able to delve too deeply into any one of these. We actually have workshops that are one-day workshops where you can imagine we might spend an hour on strategy development and another hour on ideation and so on and so forth. Today, I'm going to have to allocate about 2 or 3 minutes to each one of them. I'll probably spend more time on ideation than anything else, but let's get started. So strategy development, what we've seen based on research done by Content Marketing Institute, Marketing Profs, and other organizations, are the companies and businesses that do not have a documented content strategy. They're the ones who are seeing their content marketing efforts be least effective. Of course, the ones that are most effective are the ones that have a documented strategy. And I'll say at this point that strategies can be, in my opinion, short. They don't have to be 50-page strategies, and sometimes for bigger organizations or those that are just feel that they need to have this documentation behind them. I think we've created, our longest total overall strategy has been about 90 pages for a client. So, but I think just a good work. The key is trying to answer as many of these questions, and there are more, but again, I've got just a couple minutes per step here. But if you can actually get to the point where you can answer these questions in creating your strategy, you're going to be miles ahead compared to not having a strategy, not having a plan in place. So one of the first things is think about, why are you creating the content you're creating? What is the point of this? And who is your audience, right? What are the personas that you want to target with your content? Who are you? What is your voice? Do you want to be humorous? Maybe if you're a law firm, you're going to be totally serious in every question and useful piece of content that you're addressing online. But if you're a wine manufacturer or whoever you might, or humor through all of your content. But you need to try to understand your own personality and your voice. And then also understand what types of content you think you're going to create. Do you have the ability to create video, graphics, you have good writers on your staff? Are there people that are passionate about your business somewhere throughout your organization that can help create certain types of content? How are you going to get it developed? Again, are you going to tap into your own personnel, your own staff, your own resources? Or are you going to have to outsource half of it? And when will you develop this content? And this leads towards a content calendar that I'll talk about, a content editorial calendar. But you need to know that too, and you generally have to have a plan 60 or 90 days in advance, so that you know the content that's coming up and why you're producing it. And are holidays a part of the issue? Are seasons or new office openings and so on? What does success look like? You need to have your benchmarks right now. You should already know how much traffic is coming to your site and what some of your conversion rates are, so that when you roll out this program a year from now, which is the last bullet, you can look back and say, we've improved our conversion rates by X%. We've improved the number of leads coming in by X%. The traffic to our site by X%, or revenue in general. If you can track certainly your content all the way to your revenue, that's the perfect situation. But you need to know, your starting point, and then what you'd like, what improvements are you hoping this investment will pay off for you. And by the way, while I'm bringing up investment generally in content marketing, there is a cash spend, but I would say a lot of it is labor. Content marketing is not easy. There's no shortcut. This does take time, energy, effort to roll out for the life cycle of your content marketing. So some of the challenges that we all face as content marketers, and this is a graph showing B2B, but it's the same thing with B2B, B2C, doesn't matter. The number one thing that we hear in our workshops or when we're talking to our clients, and maybe even internally, is lack of time. They struggle with producing enough content, producing the kind of content that engages, and so on and so forth. So over the years, we've created this research or ideation process, and I'm going to spend a few minutes here covering it because it seems to be, of the 8 steps, one of the 2 that probably resonate with the most people. And when we're teaching our workshops, we see most people taking notes at this point, and we get feedback that they love our ideation process. And I'm going to cover most of it here in the next several slides, but the concept you need to keep in mind is that buyers are searching for information that helps them make an informed decision. No matter what industry or organization or vertical you're in, that's the case. And businesses that provide that information, they're the ones that are going to win in the long run. So here's where we start. Generally, what we ask is that, if we're working with our clients, we certainly like to start with this. We have to do it in person. It's ideal, or if you can't do it in person, it's ideal. If you have to do it via a survey, emailed, or emails, or however it is, but whatever it is, get as much of your staff together that's interacting with your customers and prospects as possible. And this could be people in the warehouse, the delivery staff, the front desk, accounting, and certainly your sales and marketing teams, and certainly of that group, your sales team. But you get them together, and all you really need to do is really just ask them one question, which is, what questions do they get asked all the time? Right? So the front desk of a hotel gets asked similar questions over and over again. Your accounting department might get asked questions over and over again. And certainly your salespeople, the front line that are talking to your prospects and your customers, they could tell you, oh, I get asked this every day, I get asked this every week, and so on and so forth. And the salespeople are probably already creating content via emails that are answering those questions. So you want to tap into that. So, and again, you just ask them, what are they being asked all the time? Start writing all these questions down, because in your content, you want to find ways to answer and address those questions. Next thing I recommend you do is a super fast, free tool that we all use every single day, which is Google. So I don't even remember when this was, but not too long ago, I spoke at a conference actually right here in Phoenix, Arizona. It was actually in Mesa, which is about 20 miles from us, and it was the WACVB, so Western Association of Convention and Visitors Bureau, and I was keynoting there, and I decided to come up with some slides that would mean something to all of these people coming to Arizona that were in the convention and visitor space, and we are the Grand Canyon state, so I thought, well, all right, I'll create some slides and show them how they can do research for people who might be coming to visit the Grand Canyon. So if your business had anything to do with people coming to visit the Grand Canyon, whether you're a hotel in the area or a restaurant or a helicopter tour service or rafting company or whatever it might be, you might follow steps like this. And of course, all of you listening, based on your business, you would want to apply the same kind of a thing. But you simply go to Google and start acting like you're a prospect who might be doing business with you. So in this case, I'm coming to visit Arizona to see the Grand Canyon. So I might type in visit the Grand, and Google Suggest starts to drop down and populate with a whole bunch of other things that people are currently searching for, and generally in some volume, which is why Google's suggesting this. And you can see that the search strings continue with, visit the Grand Canyon in March, December, February, May, April, January, and then also there's from Las Vegas and from Phoenix. So what I would see instantly there is I could write 12 blog posts or 12 pieces of content of some type, and that would be about the 12 months of the year in visiting the Grand Canyon. And you could do that. I mean, you could write about what time the sun rises and sun sets, what are the best vistas for taking photographs, how many people visit that particular month, what's the weather like, and so on and so forth. And every month is unique, and you could create unique content for each one. And I might even title it exactly like that, Visit the Grand Canyon in January, or Visiting the Grand Canyon in March, or whatever it might be. And I would have 12 pieces of content. Obviously, people are searching for. And then you also have from Vegas and from Phoenix, so you could write posts about that. And then you'd scroll to the bottom, and you can see even more related searches to get more ideas. So fly to visit the Grand Canyon, best time to visit the Grand Canyon. And again, these are all content ideas that you should be jotting down. You might go over to YouTube and do something similar. Just understand with YouTube, people generally go there for entertainment. And from a business perspective, it's usually how to. So they're looking for how to accomplish, or they want to see, like the Grand Canyon Skywalk. They want to see what that looks like. So just remember that's generally the intent, but you can come up with more ideas here. And if you shoot video, this would be certainly a place to go and research some content ideas. Again, jot them down. And I keep calling this a new tool, but I've actually known about this one for about 6 months anyway, and I guess in our lives 6 months is still pretty recent. So the idea is go to keywordtool.io and do the same kind of searches, visit the Grand Canyon. You can see I typed that into the top, and this tool goes and grabs all of those suggestions that Google lays out, and then it does it on steroids. It does visit the Grand Canyon that starts with the letter A, or A, visit the Grand Canyon, and this page is long. It's got hundreds and hundreds of ideas for you to scroll through and choose from, and again, jot down its content ideas. I also like to go to question and answer sites. And I say because I do write 6-7 articles a month, and I've been doing it for a couple of years. So at this point, I've written hundreds of articles, hundreds of blog posts, and so I need fresh ideas. And I'll follow the steps I just talked to you about, but I will also go to, this is Yahoo Answers. It's answers.yahoo.com, and the service has been greatly upgraded here in the last year or so with the new CEO, and so you don't get some of the polluted results you used to see, but you still will get that, and you're gonna have to sift through it to find what you want. But in this case, I did exactly the same thing. Visit the Grand Canyon. I did an exact match search for that. There was 410 questions that included that phrase, and examples like, what is the best way to visit the Grand Canyon from Las Vegas? Activities to do while visiting the Grand Canyon. And then a couple that are based on time. I've got 3 days to visit the Grand Canyon. I've got 2 days to visit the Grand Canyon. So you can create content that people are searching for and looking for, and helping them and answering these kinds of questions and concerns that they might have around your specific business. And then you can go to Uber Suggest. It's ubersuggest.org. This has primarily been, I think, a pay-per-click tool in the past, but we use it for ideation. So again, you type in the search phrase, visit the Grand Canyon, and you can start to click on these green pluses, and you'll see I clicked on the first one, which is visit the Grand Canyon. Then the next one is visit the Grand Canyon from Las Vegas, and then under that you get a whole bunch of other ideas, and I'll use this just to come up with ideas for titles. You know, because you want to spend time making sure the title of the piece of content you're creating is a really good title, and not already been used before, and I'll show you that in a second. So here's just another way to gather more ideas. And if you use Chrome on a regular basis, there's a plugin. I don't know the name of the plugin, but you can just go to Chrome and search plugins and search for Ubersuggest. And if you install the plugin, it will give you the pay-per-click costs and search volumes next to a lot of these phrases. So right there is just a really nice chunk of research that you can do in coming up with your content ideas. All right, so we've done all that, and you will do this, you know, and you should do this over and over again for your business. You might sit down and think of 20 or 30 phrases that people might enter into Google to find a business like yours, or do searches that would ultimately drive business to your website, and you just keep doing it over and over. But before you create that specific piece of content, and this is the heart, you know, this is what you all need to remember, y'all, is to go to Google, and when you think you have a title, and search for that. So in other words, we just did a bunch of research, and I saw Visit the Grand Canyon from Las Vegas pop up several times. So my thought might be, oh, I think I'll write an article about that, or a blog post, or, you know, create whatever. And so what I recommend, though, is to go to Google first and do the search for that title you're thinking about creating and see what shows up. And here's an example. So I did Visit the Grand Canyon from Las Vegas in Google, and the very first #1 search result is how to visit the Grand Canyon from Las Vegas from the USA Today. Well, of course it ranks #1. It's a nice, strong domain, but they're also specifically helping address the question I have. And their title is How to Visit the Grand Canyon from Las Vegas. So what I see here, and I can't actually see a show of hands, I usually ask people what do they see, but I'll just tell you, what I see here is opportunity. Everything below that, if you look at those search results, except for the images, but the titles of the content that are listed there, nobody has tried to answer how to visit the Grand Canyon from Las Vegas, tried to help me find that content. And I would think that if anybody in the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Bureau, or that Grand Canyon Tours that shows #2, if they had created that title, they would absolutely rank #2 if it's a decent domain underneath USA Today. If they got lucky and they were a nice, strong domain, they might rank #1. But they would probably show up on page 1 right now if they created a piece of content titled Visit the Grand Canyon from Las Vegas. And you will find these opportunities over and over again. There's plenty of times when you do this exact search and you'll see it's already been filled up. Everybody's written about it already. That's fine. Move on. Don't create that piece of content. There's others you can create. And then if you're in the B2B space, I know that was a big whole example based around travel and primarily B2C, but you can use all of those same techniques for B2B, but you can go even further and go into like LinkedIn and look for, like, this is the B2B group, but find groups in your industry and go to the discussion section and see what people are talking about. What are they asking about? And then create content that's helping those people. Quora, same thing. You go to Quora and do a search. It's another question and answer site. I would say more geared towards business, and I just happened to do an example search here of merchant accounts, and I saw a couple things jump right out on the very first page of results. I could write a post called, what is the cheapest payment gateway and merchant account? What is the easiest way for a startup to get a merchant account, and help those people out, address their concerns, their questions, give them the information they're looking for. And so this is an actual example for a solar energy client that we have, that we created these content ideas for them, and this is just a snapshot of it. It's not all the data, but this is what I would recommend you do. You list the titles on the left-hand column, put some notes in there while you're doing this research, mark off whether you think it would be a good article, a good guide, graphic, presentation, what the competition level is, what search volumes there might be, and you want to get this captured when you're doing this research, because some of this content you might not create for 6 or 7 months. It could be well on down the road, you know, when it's finally queued up in your calendar to be created, and you want to have these notes and this, at least this much detail, to help you make those decisions and create the best title you can at that time. And don't be afraid of long tail phrases, and hopefully the industry is finally getting over that. You know, you don't want to optimize for auto insurance, right? You don't want to build content around just that kind of a phrase. You want to actually answer full-on questions. And one of the updates that Google rolled out, gosh, I guess it's almost 2 years ago, maybe 18 months ago, called Hummingbird. It was really, and I'll just be very brief, but it was really rolled out because so many of us are using our mobile devices and we're asking full-on questions in the search box now. And so searches are getting longer and longer where they're typing them or speaking them into your device. And what we're discovering, though, is that if you look at the yellow highlights there, hopefully you can see those, where it's their 7, 8, 9 word phrases that people are searching for or asking for. The conversion rate, the click rate goes way up. It's almost triple any other length there, because people are seeing, like the example I gave you, visiting the Grand Canyon from Las Vegas. Well, USA Today answered that spot on with a nice long phrase that looks like exactly what I was searching for, and I will click on that. And that's what we do. So the click-through rates are really high. Don't be afraid of the long strings. Then you need to get to the point where you do an editorial calendar. I'm still on the ideation phase, but you start plugging in all of your ideas here. So you want to create an annual look, and you want to always keep rolling out. You know, when December is finished, you want to add January to the end of your calendar, and so on and so forth. So it's a rolling calendar, and look at things like selling cycles, seasons, holidays, events coming to your town, or events that you're attending, and you start to plan out your content in a very, very general, strategic sense on an annual basis. And then as the months come up, looking 2-3 months out always, you start to plug in all the details. Like, here's the name of the post we're going to create, here's who's going to write the post, here's how we're going to socialize it, and so on. You know, if it's a video, we need to create the video a month in advance so that we can edit the video and you know, whatever, and get it ready so that it's ready for the go live date. And then once it's launched, we're going to embed it on SlideShare, and you get into that level of detail. And if you happen to need this template, you can grab those two templates, the annual and the monthly, at verticalmeasures.com/calendar. I don't think you have to give your name, your email, or anything. It's just a free piece of content that we're giving away. So you can go to verticalmeasures.com/calendar and get those two templates. All right, moving on to content creation. I'm not going to cover too much. There's what I think we generally work with, whatever this is, 14, 15, 16 different types of content. So there's all kinds you can create, lots of content most of us are familiar with. But today I'm just going to talk about a couple of things. One is what to include in your content, and then just a few pieces of content you might not be thinking about creating. So to include in your content, of course, is an awesome title. That's what shows up, and a title tag, and that's what shows up in Google search results. But also try to include images in every piece of content you produce. We generally have a rule of thumb of at least 2 images, and usually I'd say we're putting 3 or 4 images into the content. And the reason is if you optimize the content and the images well, the images may show up in Google search results when people are doing a search, which can bring them to that page that you've created. Video, of course, everyone knows that video is critical. Video is just booming and booming and booming every year, year after year. And local, so if your business is local, you've got many offices, many locations, please be sure to add the snippets and maps and whatever it might be, you know, your address on those pages that are local based, so that Google understands and Bing understands that this is a local piece of content. So those are the elements. Now here's some content you might not have thought about producing, but I encourage you to think about writing about and addressing pricing and costs. Like, we're in a business where if people say, well, how much does that content marketing cost, or how much does that SEO cost, we cannot really answer that question. And many of you are in those industries, right? I mean, if you're Amazon and you're a retail center, and you of course put pricing on all of your products, but for a lot of us, you can't answer the question without having a conversation with the prospect. And in this example of the fiberglass pool, you can't. It's the most asked question at Marcus Sheridan's pool store, River Pools and Spas. That's what they get asked the most. They can't answer it really very well online because they don't know how big of a pool you want, what access to your backyard is like, whether you want a spa, what kind of decking you want. I mean, you have to have a conversation. But people are searching for it anyway. So you need to create content that has good titles and good content that's addressing the issue. And in that content, you might just tell them, can't really answer it here, blah, 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 blah. But the point is, when they search for it, they click on your piece of content that shows in the search results, and now they're reading it on your website. And that's the whole point, is you've created content that's pulled them to the top of your funnel, and now hopefully the rest of your website, the wrapper, the header and footer and sidebars are created well enough to start to pull them into your lead or your sales process. And that's content marketing. But this particular piece is addressing costs. You might also create comparisons, reviews, versus, whatever you want to call it, because we do that a lot too. Think about how many times you've gone out to purchase something, you've narrowed it down to 2 or 3 products, and now you want to compare them. So you might be comparing a Toyota 4Runner versus a Toyota Sequoia. And so if you're in a business like that where you can compare your own products to themselves or your products to your competitors, create them. People search for it. Resource pages are another great thing. They actually seem to work really, really well in search engines. They get a lot of links pointing to them. They seem to grab a lot of authority. They rank well. So think about, can you provide, again, useful content in the form of resource pages for your prospects and for your clients? And I'm going to move past that pretty quick. Interviews are another thing I think that people could do, businesses could do many more of, whether they're written or video or audio interviews. But interviewing other experts helps raise the profile of your organization. It's great content. And the other really nice thing is that you have someone participating with you who's helping you produce that content. So don't forget about interviews. I think this might be my last content tip. Oh no, I've got one more. But curation and aggregation. This is something else you might want to think about. Is you could assign somebody to the task that every week or every day or once a month, whatever frequency you can handle, they do kind of a roundup. They're curating information in your industry and then posting it as a piece of content on your website, which we do every Friday. We call it the weekly measure. But you're providing a valuable service to people in your industry because you're summarizing what has happened in your industry during this week or day, if you can produce it every day. But even a weekly basis is a really nice thing. And they seem to also do well in search engines. Oh, and product pages. Here, I almost forgot about product pages, and it's the slide I'm telling you not to forget about product pages. But products are hard, right? I mean, if you only sell 10 or 15 products, all right. But if you sell tens of thousands or 100,000 different products, this is a big, big task. And you do need to worry about having unique product pages. If you're selling the same thing 100 other stores are selling, you need to work on optimizing your title and your description of that particular product, maybe showing statistics on that page, adding images and video, doing comparisons like I talked about, adding user-generated content, whether it's in the form of questions being answered by your users or reviews or whatever. But like I said right in the beginning of this webinar, content's not easy, and there is no shortcut even for product pages. Again, if you're grabbing a feed from a manufacturer that everybody else is grabbing, you've got to find a way to customize that content and that page for each product. Then my favorite, and everybody at Vertical Measures knows this is my favorite, but free guides, case studies, white papers. They have multiple benefits. They generate leads, they attract links, and they have a very long lifespan. And how they attract leads is generally you'll ask for whatever you decide, how much information you want to ask, and it's usually based on how valuable this piece of information is that you're giving away. But it could be as simple as name and email. If it's super, super valuable, you might want to ask for their company and their title and their phone number as well. And you just have to do some testing and see what's getting you the most downloads and the most highly qualified leads, and work through that. But this piece of these kinds of pieces of content can last years and years, and we've got many, many, many examples of this where we've produced this kind of content for a client, and years later it's still out there, it's still being downloaded, it's still producing leads for them, even though they made their investment in the content 3 years ago, or whatever the example might be. All right, so I'm on to step 4, and I'm racing. So optimization. What I say to people all the time in sessions, whenever I'm talking to them, I'm saying to you right now, is we spend a lot of time developing a strategy, coming up with ideas, producing the content. We might have, if you add it all up, 10 man-hours into producing some really cool piece of content, and way too often we see people push the publish button before they take a few minutes to optimize it. And if you do that, you might wind up in a scenario like this. right? Best place to hide a dead body is page 2 of Google search results. You don't want that to happen. You went through all this effort. You want them to find it. So things that are important to take care of, and the most influential things from a search engine ranking perspective, are links pointing to your content, and that would mean internal links as well. So, when you're writing posts or creating content, within that content, within the written piece of content, if you can link to other pages that make a lot of sense for your website visitor, do it, because those links can help get those other pages ranked. Your core architecture needs to be set up really well, and I'll explain why in the next slide. Titles and title tags, I've mentioned that a few times already. You've got to get those unique and think about them. Take 5 minutes to think through the title tags, and the description meta tag, and get it set. And then also, if you're adding images like I recommended to your content, make sure you're taking 1 minute to change the file name using keywords and adding some keywords into the alt image tag. Whatever that image represents, add those keyword in there. H1 tag, that's the headline of a web page. Make sure you only have one, but make sure you think it through so that it means something. Page load times, make sure all of your pages can load quickly, and then freshness of content matters a lot to Google, so keep producing new content, web posts, user reviews, anything that's adding fresh content to your overall website can help all of your overall rankings. And I asked our SEO team a couple of months ago, based on what we saw in 2014, how would they rank them? What do we see the most? So this is what we see the most that needs to be fixed on many, many websites that come to us for content marketing or SEO or pay-per-click or whatever it might be. And the first thing that jumps out is duplicate content. And usually it's unintentional. Sometimes it's done very intentionally and needs to get fixed. But you might want to talk to your SEOs or your webmasters or whoever about making sure you don't have duplicate content on your site, that you don't have duplicate title tags. We see that way too often. It's just a lazy approach that needs to be stopped. Accidentally blocking pages or the entire site. We'll see that sometimes when someone's created a brand new version of their site on a web dev server or a test server, and they make it live and they forget to remove the no index, no follow, and that still happens. They don't optimize images, and then they have bad optimization of all the links pointing to them. They over-optimize, and that needs to get cleaned up. So those are 5 bullets that you should really think about. It's the things we see over and over again when we're looking at websites. All right, moving on to content promotion. So you've done the strategy, you've got ideas, you've created the content, you've optimized it, you've pushed it out there live. Now you need to let people know about it. And what we're seeing definitely these days compared to just 2 years ago, that it can usually be more cost effective to reach out to websites like this and pay for your promotion. I'm sorry to say, but spend some money on pay-per-click or native ads, Facebook ads, at Outbrain, whatever it is. Make sure you set aside some budget for this type of promotion, especially for your free guide content or white papers or that special piece of content. Or if you notice that you have a blog post that's converting really well, getting leads for you, and you notice that in your analytics, then that might be something to invest some money in. We're just finding that you get a pretty good bang for your buck with a lot of these channels right now. But also make sure you do share it via your social media channels. So here's my 4 most popular channels: my LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. And when we put out a new piece of content, I can share it on these 4 channels in about 2 minutes. It just does not take that much time. And it's just something that needs to be on your checklist that you do. Every share helps. And then, in the case of like Twitter, you might want to share the same piece of content many, many times. I mean, dozens of times. If throughout a year you might share it 50 times, because how Twitter's feed works, the stream, it goes away pretty quickly. And people are wrapped all around the world that might be interested in your content, and you need to make sure you're serving it up at the hours that they're actually awake and doing something on Twitter. And also a press release. Don't forget that. When we produce a really cool piece of content, like we have a couple of things right now. We've got a how to promote on Facebook, a really nice meaty guide on that, how to get out of a Google penalty, a nice guide on that. I'm sure there's a couple others I can't think of right now. We rolled out a site called How to Convince Your Boss, which I'll talk about at the very end. We'll create a press release just about that piece of content, and you might want to think about doing that as well. Distribution, one slide on distribution. What we view is distribution is when you're taking your content and you're putting it on somebody else's website. So far, everything I've talked about to this point is creating content for your site and promoting it to bring people back to your site. But in the case of video or images or slides or whatever, you might want to look at just taking that content, of course I would recommend it, and posting it up on YouTube and on Pinterest, on SlideShare, on Vimeo, and other sites like this, so that you're getting more exposure for your content, you're helping build your brand, and most likely there's some links there that point back to the original content. But again, this would be distributing or repurposing your content out to other websites off of your domain. Lead nurturing, again, real quick on lead nurturing. Once you've brought somebody to your website, it doesn't end there. And I know you've heard this over and over again, but it's really important to have some kind of a follow-up program in place. So generally, lead nurture would fall under email. All right, that's by far the most common way that people stay in touch with the leads that have come in. Of course, there's phone and there's putting other content in front of them, but generally email. So I've got 2 or 3 slides on email. Of course, you want to make sure it's visually appealing. You want to have it incorporated into your content editorial calendar. You want to segment if you can. That, for instance, at our company, if somebody comes to us for SEO, we would want to message back with them with only SEO-oriented emails as opposed to, say, they came to us for pay-per-click or content. We'd want to have a different series that follows up with them based on what they're interested in. And then skipping down, don't forget to, again, take the time to think through a great subject line. A great subject line can increase your open rates by hundreds of percent. So you can get 2 or 3 times the open rate by spending 15 minutes and really thinking through a great subject line. And there's services you can use, exact target, so on and so forth. Next slide for me. So one of the things you have to remember today is that most of us are on our phones, our mobile devices, all day long. And this number, I think now it's finally just crossed over 50%. So it's, whatever it is, the majority of emails are opened on a mobile device. And hopefully you're all nodding, and you all do that. Maybe you're doing it right now while I'm talking. You're watching a webinar, and you have your phone in your hand, and you're checking email. And we do it a lot just to go in and delete email and clean it up so we get into our office or at our computer or whatever, we can, go through the email that matters and that's left. Whoops. And so the warning here is that make sure your email doesn't look like this. If it doesn't render well, if it doesn't look good, 80% of us are going to just delete it because there's just another email we can read, right? I mean, if it's an internal important office email, yeah, you're not going to do that. But if it's an external, someone who's pitching you, so to speak, or lead nurturing you, it's got to look right, or we just delete. So measurement, very last step I'm going to talk about. Measurement is critical. Again, you're going to, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute. You're going to ask your executives to invest in this. You've got to be able to show them that it's working. So measure individual pieces of content. Measure whatever you can. You might want to still check for keyword rankings, but certainly measure your traffic, your conversions. If you can measure it all the way to revenue, whatever your key metrics are, do that. And then focus on the strategies that are providing the best ROI and keep rolling out the content that's working, and maybe stop content that's not working or adjust it. Figure out what it is, test, but you have to measure, and you got to know your baselines in the beginning and then see what's happening throughout your content marketing process. So here's ways to measure. I'm going to leave this slide very quickly because, again, you can watch this later. You can get the video of this webinar. But there's multiple ways to measure your success. Visiting your website, again, seeing if a specific blog post has resonated well with the audience. Are they filling out the forms? Do you have new subscribers, email opens, qualified leads, so on and so forth. All right, so remember, if you do follow those 8 steps over and over again, you will see success. We have just seen this, and I'm only showing you a handful of examples here. We have just seen it over and over again, and typically it will take about 6 months. If you're just starting out, if you're just today, after today's webinar, you're fired up and you're going to start in earnest on January, whatever it is that we all go back to work, 3rd or 4th or whatever it is, and you're just for 2015, you're going to blow it out from a content marketing perspective. Just understand that consistently producing content, it's going to take about 6 months before you start to see, like in all those charts I showed you, it takes a little while, but once it takes hold, it starts to zoom in the classic hockey stick way, and you're going to see the ROI come back for you. And here's a quick example of one of my favorite ways to do content marketing. And I realize there's all kinds of things you can do, video, infographics, content segmented by personas. There's a lot, but still many of us just need to get the blocking and tackling correct. And so what we talk about with our clients that are not maybe just looking to, whatever, blocking and tackling, just want to get results, is what I would call the hub and spoke method. And here's a great example. It's called Yale Appliance. They're in Boston. And they have a traditional website, and they're a traditional appliance store in Boston, just like we all are familiar with. But they drank the content marketing Kool-Aid a few years ago, and the staff on their floor, they all help contribute blog posts, and they follow the methodology that I just talked to you about, and they follow what Marcus Sheridan talks about. And so here's an example of Maytag versus Electrolux front load washer, right? So this is that comparison type of content. And so if you do a search for Maytag versus Electrolux, you wind up seeing this in Google, you click on it, you get to this blog post, and you read. And if you'll just pretend we read down to the bottom of the blog post, at the bottom they've got related articles, additional resources, and then this nice banner ad, which is saying, hey, we have washer buying guides that you might be interested in. And so since you were interested in front-load washers, maybe you should click here to get this guide. And many, many people do. And this is a process they have found that works very, very well, and they have created dozens and dozens of these guides. Appliance buying guide, refrigerator buying guide, counter depth refrigerator. And if you look to the left there, that's their guide, the list of all the guides they have there, wall ovens, speed and steam ovens. I don't even know what that is. The results have been awesome for them. So Yale's traffic has almost quadrupled since starting their content marketing program. Their leads have almost tripled. So imagine how happy the salespeople are now. Their revenue is up by 40% since they started the program. Imagine how happy the owner is. And in fact, I've done a couple interviews with him, and Steve told me that not only is their revenue up more than 40%, but their profits are up because they've been able to eliminate so many other marketing expenses. And that's the beauty of content marketing. All of those guides they created, all of the surrounding blog posts, what I call the spokes, the blog posts and all the other images and their social shares that are all pointing back to these free guides, that's why I call it the hub and spoke model. All of that just keeps producing for them. And they've seen results like this. So I'm heading towards the wrap-up. So I mentioned earlier that I went and spoke at a conference out in Mesa, Arizona. So I decided to leave the office early and go over and have lunch there. And I did a search, like we would all do, for restaurants near the Mesa Convention Center because I don't know Mesa that well. And when I did that search, this is the search results page that came up. And I took a screenshot of it. You'll see it's different today. But I took a screenshot of it because I was so frustrated that nobody had written any kind of content to help answer my question, which is, what are some restaurants near the Mesa Convention Center? So I came back to the office and I complained about it like I normally do when I see things like this. And Mike, one of our directors here, owns a blog on the side, and he said, I'll tell you what, I'll create a blog post called Restaurants Near the Mesa Convention Center. And I'll add images and I'll list the restaurants. I'll do what we say clients should do, and let's see what happens. And he did. And I will say now, I'm not even positive, but I will say within 30 to 60 days, what ended up happening is the next time you go and do a search for restaurants near the Mesa Convention Center, Mike's blog post ranks #1 in Google. I was actually just speaking in Dallas, and some of the people in the audience did a search and said it was ranking #2. So I don't know where it ranks, but I will tell you for a very long time it held the #1 position. We didn't do anything to it other than optimize it reasonably well, tweet it out a couple of times. We might have to tweet it out again. If it indeed is locked in at #2, we'll get it back to #1. But this is the point, is create content that people are searching for, post it on your site, and it might not be a highly searched phrase, but if you can create 200 or 300 of these or 1,000 of these over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years, you will dominate. You will own all of the traffic related to your business, to your industry. This is what content marketing is all about. That's the key. So again, it's not a 30-day ROI. The long-term payoffs. This is what's going to make it or break it for a lot of companies in the future. And I will say, when we teach our workshops, the most common thing we hear when we leave the workshop is, Arnie, I just can't get our management to see the potential in this. Getting buy-in seems to be impossible. And so what I say to you all that might be in that same situation, or those people there, is a couple of things. One is, remember, it takes courage to do this. I mean, I am a business owner. I felt like I was rolling the dice a few years ago when we decided we're going to start producing content and know that we're going to give away valuable free information, and we might be doing this for 5, 6, 7 months and not seeing a return on that until then. So remember that for your executives and your owners and whoever's involved in this decision process, it's a gutsy move, and you need to treat it that way. And so what I'd recommend is, don't go to them and say, we should be blogging. We need to create a FAQ page. We need to do content marketing. It's the hot thing, or inbound marketing, or social media marketing. Instead, talk to them about things like creating a learning center, which could simply be your blog. We need to help our clients and our prospects. We need to listen to them. We need to teach and educate them. We have to communicate with them. And so basically the question boils down to, when prospects visit our website, do we help solve their problems better than anyone else in the world? And the companies that do that, that are starting to understand these principles, or have been for a couple of years, they're doing incredible things online, and you need to do that too. No matter what industry you're in, no matter what size your business is, no matter where you exist geographically, you need to work on it. So we created a website, an absolutely free website called howtoconvinceyourboss.com, that has a bunch of resources to help you do this, to help you go pitch your boss on why they should invest in content marketing. So you can go to howtoconvinceyourboss.com. You can watch 10 industry experts give you tips and advice on this. You can see some of your objections there, and hopefully we provide answers for that. Resources, how to craft your pitch. There's a PowerPoint template, so you can go there and get some valuable information. We can also bring our content marketing workshops to you if you're interested, or your association, or whatever it might be. And this is the wrap. I mentioned I'm going to tell you how to get the book for free. So you can tweet this out if you would. But basically, if you go to that short URL, vert.mej, so vert.ms/cmworks, you can get the full 290-page book for free, downloaded to you as our gift for the holidays. And now we'll turn it over to Quinn for questions.
Yeah, and I know we could probably go on for another 7
Sorry
hours.
about that.
So thanks for trying to condense it. We do have a couple questions. So we've got one from Lauren. They asked, do you use a tool for sharing content on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Google+?
I'll tell you that the personal tool that I use is Hootsuite. So yes, I use Hootsuite, and I will schedule. In fact, I sent an email out to the company today explaining how I do it. But I schedule tweets and LinkedIn updates. I don't do too much on my own personal Facebook page, but we have our own business page, and we can schedule as well there. Google Plus is another scheduling tool, but yeah, I will use a tool like that to post and promote all of our content and our other people in our industry as well. It's not just all about us. You want to share all sorts of good industry information.
And another tool question, you mentioned your content calendar spreadsheet. Is that a Excel format, or what type of tools can we use for content calendars?
Yeah, the particular one that I gave you the download, the link to, is an Excel template. So there's 2 templates there, and that's what we use still today. I do know that if you just go to Google and search for content editorial calendars, you're going to see some other sources out there, and some are a little more robust than that. So if you're beyond that and the Excel's not working for you, if you're managing thousands of pieces of content, there are some other tools out there. And I'm drawing a little bit of a blank, and also I want to be a little sensitive of time. But if you just do a Google search for that, you'll see some of them pop up immediately.
Great. And then something on your promotional step. You mentioned paid promotion, but what about PPC in this whole process? Does that help?
Well, it can, yeah. If you've, I don't know if you noticed, but one of the guides on there was a golf school guide. We created the original one about 7 years ago. We updated it, freshened it up maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but one of the primary traffic drivers to that landing page with that free guide as a career guide was pay-per-click. So they invested a lot of money in pay-per-click, and they knew what they could spend to get a lead. And all of you, if you're lead-based, hopefully you know that. And that's like if you worked with us, that's one of the questions we would ask you is, if you're dependent on leads, do you know how much you can, what a lead is worth to you, basically? And they know, and so they would invest pay-per-click to drive traffic and get the downloads and get those leads.
Great. And then we have time for one quick question, and then we'll wrap it up. Which video hosting company do you recommend for product videos?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm not a deep video expert. For our purposes, I know you asked specifically for products. For our purposes, we push everything onto YouTube, and then we embed it onto our own website, and we take the time to add generally the full transcription, audio transcription of that video to that same page, and that seems to work really well for search. For products, there's a few of them out there. I know the one that I'm most familiar with is, I think it's called Wistia. And that's used a lot if you have the ability to host your own videos and that's what you want to do, as opposed to posting them on YouTube or Vimeo or wherever it might be, a third-party service. Wistia is a pretty good self-hosting video platform, and I'm sure there are others. I just don't know that well.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Arnie.
You bet. Sorry for running so long.
No, it's okay. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and we will be sending out a recording and the slides by tomorrow, so you'll have that in your inbox. So thanks for joining from everyone at the Vertical Measures team. Please mark your calendar for our next monthly webinar. It's going to be early next month on January 8th, and we were going to have Robert Rose, who is the Chief Strategist of Content Marketing Institute, come on, and he'll be presenting the topic, the 2020 Content Marketing Strategy. Not the TV show, not the eyesight, it's the year. So this is all about looking forward into the future and how the content marketing industry in practice will be evolving. So please mark your calendar for that, and you can register at verticalmeasures.com/webinars. I think that's all I've got for you today, so we appreciate everyone coming, and have a good day.
Thank you all.
Bye.